My toxic in-laws have been constantly talking garbage about me behind my back in another language, saying terrible things about me under the guise that I couldn't understand them. But after listening to this for several months, as well as putting up with so many awful comments, I decided to drop the news that yes, I understood what they were saying and that I've known the entire time. And now, as a result, my entire extended family has freaked out on me, claiming that I'm the one at fault for secretly knowing that they were insulting me all along. Here's what happened. My husband and I have been married for about 3 years, and for the sake of the story, we'll call my husband Peter. We have one child together, and I was pregnant with our second, and I'm Western Canadian while he is from Germany. We lived in Canada for a long time, but because of inflation, moving back to Germany seemed to be a better option for us. So we bought a nice house in the place where my husband is from. The day after our flights to Germany, we all visited Peter's family, and this was the second time I've seen them, with the first time being our wedding. They greeted us and brought us inside of the house, fussing over my son. We had dinner, and soon we left the house, wanting to settle into our new home. Now, we visited Peter's family often for the next few months, but I had started to realize that they would sometimes speak about me in German. They would make rude comments on my hair and makeup, question my fashion choices, and overall were just very unkind to me. They also said mean things about my pregnant belly, which I was already insecure about. I ended up talking to my husband about this, and I told him that I didn't like the way that they were treating me. I said that I hated how my every choice was judged. So he told me that he would talk to his family. Well, the next time we went to his parents' house, there were no more mean comments. And for about 3 months, it was like nothing ever happened. I gave birth to a perfect baby girl that we named Lilith, and Peter's family was very upset when they heard the name. Now, if you didn't know, Lilith means ghost or of the night. We didn't pick this name because of its meaning, but because it's a name that every girl in my family has had for many years. My middle name is Lilith, along with my mom's, my grandma's, and even my great-grandma's. For a while, I didn't visit my in-laws. I didn't want to hear them talk about how I shouldn't have named my daughter Lilith. But yesterday, we saw them again. It was my mother-in-law's birthday, and as soon as we showed up, things started to go badly. Everybody wanted to hold Lilith, which made my mother-in-law upset because people weren't paying attention to her and made me overwhelmed. But I didn't want people to hold her. I was going through a pretty bad postpartum depression, and it was pretty early to see people. So I let people look at her but declined when anybody asked to hold her. During the dinner, I heard my sister-in-law talking to my mother-in-law in German, and I actually heard her complaining about how she couldn't hold my baby. My sister-in-law even had the audacity to call me, and I quote, a fat, ugly addict. Well, I turned to my sister-in-law and mother-in-law, and I told them off in German. I basically said that I have always known what they have said about me, but calling me names was honestly the last straw. I also mentioned how I have known German for almost my entire life. Well, when I said that, the table instantly blew up. People were yelling at me because apparently this was my fault. I eventually left with Peter, and we haven't talked to them ever since. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. These people absolutely had it coming, and you called them out in the perfect moment. You're literally in front of the entire family, and you're watching as all of them are complicit while these comments are being made. They're not only not defending you, but they're also letting it happen. And that, in my opinion, is almost worse than anything else. So the fact that you dropped it on them like that, and based on the way they reacted, shows that they're not only guilty, but also how absolutely obnoxious they are. They really tried to turn this on you and be like, oh, this is your fault for not telling us. And you almost want to question and be like, why? Because now you can't talk garbage about me behind my back? Like, there's no way this is your fault. This also makes me wonder how many times your husband has let this slide. Like, sure, he kept it a secret that you know German, but did he ever chime in and be like, wait, don't talk about my wife like that? Like, I really hope he did defend you in some kind of way, because if not, that means he's complicit as well, and that would be so damaging in my opinion. It's also hilarious to me that these people didn't assume that the lady who's married to a German man who moved to and bought a house in Germany doesn't somehow know German. Like, seriously, talk about a miscalculation to the highest degree. Did they really just not think it through that maybe you know what they're talking about? Like, in my opinion, I think you have the patience of a saint, because if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would put up with that for even a second. Like, the second I knew they were talking garbage about me, and I realized that they actually don't like me in the way that I hoped they would, I would have set that record straight real quick, especially if I'm going to be living in the same city as these people. So no, with all things considered, you are absolutely not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. You've tried to be cordial with these people, and it really sounds like you did everything right to try and make these people like you in the best way possible. But at the end of the day, people like this never change, meaning that their behavior is absolutely not your problem. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not moving my wedding date just to accommodate my sister's pregnancy? Because right now she's really mad, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I have a sister who we will call Ellie. Ellie and I have always been close growing up, despite her being 3 years older. We've always been best friends, and I was her maid of honor, and she's gonna be mine. Ellie is currently 5 months pregnant, and she had a rough first trimester, throwing up 3 to 4 times a day and always was very tired. Some days she literally couldn't get out of bed. She had also found out early when she was a month into it because her symptoms were so bad. Her and I live close to each other, and since her husband travels a lot for work, I have stayed with her a lot since I work remotely. Now, my fiance and I had originally set the date for July. However, seeing how sick that she was, I, along with my entire family, were getting very worried. And so, after my fiance and I discussed it, we decided to reschedule the wedding until after she had passed her first trimester, and per her doctor, she was supposed to get better. Now, I need to add that nobody asked us to do this, but I felt that it was needed. And thank God she did get better. She's eating normally and going out and back to herself. Seeing this, my fiance and I talked about our wedding again, and had always wanted a summer wedding on the beach, but I didn't want to wait a full year, and seeing winter wedding pictures was slowly growing on me. And so with that, we decided on a December wedding. The invitations were finalized last week with the date, and it was all sent out a couple of days ago. And yes, it is early, but my man and I all have big families and big group of friends and colleagues, so we need to get the RSVPs very early. Well, yesterday I got an angry phone call from my sister asking how I can do something like this to her. I was honestly confused, and I told her as much, and she went on to rant about how inconsiderate I was to not wait until my nephew was born, that her being the maid of honor and 8 months pregnant is going to be hard, and that she has already been through so much already. I calmly explained to her that while yes, she is the maid of honor, I don't expect her to go above and beyond. My best friend and her had always planned a girls' night back when my wedding was in July, so we're just going with that again. I mean, everything is already bought and my best friend will set it up. I told her that my man and I have also rebooked everything ourselves, and that I will pay to have her dress resized to accommodate her bump. I'm even taking care of hair and makeup for all my wedding party, so we will have a sort of pamper session where we'll all get ready together and take pictures. So basically, all she's required to do is show up. Well, she's having none of it, and is demanding that we reschedule it again until next summer. But I put my foot down and I gave her a flat out no. My parents called me and asked me to reconsider, saying that I know she's emotional and hormonal, but I told them that's not an excuse to act this way. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their comments and their advice. I'm definitely seeing her side more than I was before, but I do want to clarify some things that I didn't add in the post. When we rescheduled the wedding, her and my brother-in-law had my fiance and I over for dinner, as we do weekly dinners every Friday, and she had thanked me for rescheduling and told me that she felt guilty, but I made sure to tell her that I don't blame her and that having her there healthy and happy is what matters, in whatever capacity she can give me. I made sure that she knew that she could step down from maid of honor at any point, even if it was the day before the wedding, and that I would understand no matter what. That dinner, my man and I also floated the idea of a winter wedding around, and both her and my brother-in-law said it would be fun since we haven't had that in our family yet. We also chose the date around many of our family schedules along with our friends' availabilities, who were also still being gracious enough to do our wedding flowers and catering and renting us the venue despite us rescheduling it once already. Also, I may have to update in the future because my parents called and invited me to their house so my sister and I can talk it out. I have no idea why she's using a third party, even if it is our parents, but this all is super frustrating and I'm just wondering where this is gonna lead. First and foremost, I don't think you're the jerk for moving the date of your wedding. You already did it once to try and accommodate her, and now she's turning around and acting like, oh my god, why would you do this to me? You're gonna be ruining everything if you do that. That is absolutely ridiculous because this is not about her. And it's also just insulting for her to be like, no, get married next year. Because wait a second, why do you have any say in when the original poster gets married? That's really annoying and there's just no reason to act like that. So no, I don't think the original poster is the jerk at all, and I think the way the sister's acting is completely inappropriate. Am I the jerk for clapping back at my cousin after he spread a false rumor that I was pregnant? Because right now I am very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my third cousin by marriage is a 9-year-old and honestly is probably a sociopath. He purposefully breaks and steals people's property, even his grandma's family heirlooms, and constantly publicly disrupts things. In fact, he started shouting animal noises during the quiet part of his uncle's funeral. He is just a massive piece of garbage child all around, and his two dads are pretty much hands-off and barely even supervise him, much less discipline him, and then also get really verbally aggressive when someone else speaks up to them about their son's unacceptable behavior. One of his new hobbies is telling me that I look pregnant and that I'm fat. I'm a size 10, so I'm not tiny, but like not really fat. I do have a condition called diastasis recti that I can't have surgery to fix until I'm done having kids, but it gives my belly a more pronounced appearance. I've explained this nicely to the kid and his parents multiple times, that I have this medical condition that I'm self-conscious about, and I'm very sensitive. So please stop loudly saying I'm pregnant and calling me fat. Well, he kept doing it, and he also only does it in front of large groups of people, like when we're all gathered around a fire pit or eating dinner. So I know that he knows that I'm not pregnant and that it's inappropriate to be doing this. So we were at a family dinner this weekend, and this kid goes up to the bartender my mother-in-law hired for this private event and tells him not to serve me because I'm pregnant and an alcoholic. I then went up to the bartender myself later with a group of my husband's family to get a glass of wine, and he actually refused to serve me, citing this kid for telling him that I'm pregnant. And when I heard that, I just died inside. I was beyond mortified. I then marched up to one of the kid's dads and I told him what the kid did and said that he needed to ask him to apologize to me because that was unacceptable. Well, he refused and actually got offended that I would ask for an apology. So I'm pissed. I walk up to the kid and I say to him, I know what you did to the bartender. Why did you do that? To which he replied by saying, it was funny. Well, I clapped back. I said to him, you know what? I understand why your original mother and father didn't want you and put you up for adoption. You're a bad kid. Well, when I said that, the kid starts bawling, and it's the first time I've ever seen him cry. And after I said that, I just walked away. He told the whole family, and I just said that I asked him why he did what he did, and I'm sure people believe me because this kid also lies a lot. But I do kind of feel bad, and I wonder if I was out of line, or if there's something else I should have done instead. I just got sick of trying to take the high road and address it with the parents and having them not give a single care about it. And you know what? I also rationalize it by saying, well, maybe now he'll learn not to mess around and find out, and maybe next time he'll think twice about trying to hurt somebody. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna be honest real quick. I don't think the original poster's the jerk. Now, this might be a hot take. I totally understand if someone's like, wow, how could you feel that way? But this is one of those situations where it's like, okay, I think it's time to fight fire with fire. In my opinion, if your parents are not going to supervise your kid, and this kid's gonna run around and do stuff like this, at that point, the gloves are off. That little brat actually went up to a bartender and said, don't serve her, she's an alcoholic and pregnant. And sure, the bartender's a moron for believing that crap, but also this kid was completely over the line. He's done this repeatedly, and the original poster has talked to the parents repeatedly. She's practically begged them to please leave her alone about this and that she's really sensitive and self-conscious about it. Like literally, she's done everything she can to be civil and try to take the high road, as she put it. But this little demon spawn clearly has no discipline in his life, and he thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it because I think it's funny. And if the parents aren't gonna get involved and no one's gonna listen, then in my opinion, what the original poster said is not at all that bad. Because here's the thing, the parents and the kid allowed it to get to this level. You literally just want to exist at family events and not be called pregnant or fat by some stupid brat. And that's all this kid is. He's spoiled, he has no discipline, and the parents are clearly doing nothing to help out. And worst of all, they're the kind of parents who get upset when you say something about their stupid kid. And oh my god, I can't stand parents like that. They are the worst to deal with because they just don't see what's actually happening. Or they do see what's happening and they still don't do anything about it. So personally, maybe that's a hot take, but if I was in the original poster shoes and I had been harassed like this by this stupid kid over and over again at pretty much every opportunity he's given, then I would probably say something like this, if not a little bit worse. And the thing is, this kid absolutely has it coming. You can't just talk to someone like that and expect to get away with it all because you think it's funny, or even because your parents are literally doing nothing to supervise you. So truly, I think you did nothing wrong in this scenario, and I think this kid absolutely had it coming. An entitled older couple followed me from store to store, claiming that I tried to hit this old lady with my car, even though I definitely didn't. Here's what happened. So I've been visiting my family in my hometown, and yesterday I borrowed my mom's car to visit a close friend and her family. I stopped at the store, which is located in a small strip mall, to pick up a treat for the kids, and while I was driving through the parking lot, a woman, probably in her early 60s, was walking over to her car. So I slowed down, and I came to a complete stop about 3 to 4 feet from her so that I could let her cross. And when I did that, she stood in front of my vehicle to scream at the top of her lungs about how I almost hit her and this was a parking lot. I mouthed the word sorry to her just to de-escalate the situation, but she refused to move and continued screaming at me. So I drove around her and I went to park the car to enter the grocery store. I took maybe 5 steps from my car and I noticed that she was storming over towards me, absolutely fuming. So I immediately got back in my car and I drove away about 5 minutes down the road to a different store just so I could not engage with this lady. As I was waiting in the checkout line of the store, I saw her and a man who I assume was her husband walk in and began looking around, definitely looking for me. And at that point, I got super freaked out and I left my items behind and immediately exited the store and walked to my car. Well, she saw me and followed me out to the parking lot and proceeded to scream in my face about how I almost hit her and kept saying how she has pictures of my license plate. Her husband also just stood behind her with his arms crossed, staring me down. After about a minute of this, I got into the car and I locked the doors, and I just kept telling her to get away from me, but she continued to stand in front of my car and scream at me and film me on her phone, all the way until I called the police, which I told her I was doing so if she didn't get away from me, and it was only then that she left when she realized I wasn't bluffing about calling. Well, this really freaked me out, because I have been attacked completely at random in public before, and I know rationally that she probably wasn't going to attack me, but by the time I got on the phone with the dispatcher, I was like completely shaking and could barely handle my phone to make the call. Now, I want to be clear that I was driving probably 10 to 15 miles an hour at most in this parking lot, and there were many other people walking because it was a Saturday morning, and we were right in front of a diner which is also in this strip mall. It would not have been possible to be driving fast because of the amount of folks coming in and out of the diner. I also work with children, and I'm acutely aware that parking lots are an area where kids may try to run from their parents up to the car and all this other stuff. So I always try to make sure and be aware. Maybe I'm misremembering, and I got closer to her before coming to a complete stop than I think I did, but I'm fairly certain if I had enough room to drive around her when she refused to move, that I was not overly close to her. Even so, I don't think this interaction warrants what her and her husband did, but this whole situation really freaked me out, and I really hope I never deal with it ever again. Wow, that's really scary, and I'm so sorry that you dealt with that. You tried to do everything possible. You tried to de-escalate it and be like, okay, my bad, I'll be on my way. And you tried to leave and get away from these people, but they literally tracked you down to the very store that you ran to just to try and get your stuff and go along with your day. Like, for starters, that lady clearly had like a chip on her shoulder, and she either wanted to have an argument, or she was trying to blow this out of proportion just to try and like get you in trouble in some kind of way. But regardless of how she felt, there is literally no excuse for the way she acted. This is also one of those moments where having a dash cam or some kind of camera in your car is quite literally your best friend. Like, my God, that would have changed everything. If this lady really did want to try and like mess around, she would have absolutely found out. Also, in my opinion, I think locking the car door and calling the police while she's screaming at you would have been a better plan than telling her that you're going to call the police, because this behavior absolutely deserves to be punished. This lady's following you from store to store trying to scream at you, making up this story that you tried to hit her with your car. Like, no, that's not what happened at all. That's insane. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, because the way this crazy lady acted was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for confronting my neighbor after they asked my girlfriend to watch their cats, despite knowing that I had planned a surprise getaway for the two of us? Because right now, my girlfriend's upset with the way I handled this, and at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old male, and I had planned a surprise weekend getaway for my girlfriend, and I was excited because I had booked everything in advance, and I kept it a secret for weeks. Well, a couple days before the trip, I casually mentioned to my neighbors that I had planned something special for the weekend, and that my girlfriend would be out of town. Well, the neighbor didn't say much, and just kind of nodded, and I didn't think much of it. Well, later that day, my neighbor asked my girlfriend if she was busy over the weekend, and if she could look after their cats while they went away. And my girlfriend, being the nice person that she is, agreed without any hesitation, assuming that she didn't have any plans. Well, fast forward to the weekend, and I finally reveal the surprise trip to my girlfriend, and she is absolutely thrilled. But then she remembers she agreed to look after the neighbor's cats. She then apologizes, and now we're stuck because she feels bad backing out of the commitment. Well, I was furious because I had already told the neighbors about the surprise weekend. They knew we were going away, but still asked her to do them a favor. I eventually confronted the neighbor, and I ended up shouting at them for putting my girlfriend in an awkward situation when they knew that we had plans. Well, my girlfriend now thinks that I overreacted, and the neighbor is upset with me for being rude. But I feel like I was justified because I had planned this special weekend weekend and it got completely ruined. But now I'm starting to second guess myself. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because what your neighbors did is so rude. They knew that the both of you would not be available that weekend, and yet they still go specifically to your girlfriend and say, hey, can you watch our cats for the weekend? We're gonna be away. And it almost seems like they did that on purpose to ruin your plans. And that's crazy to me. Like, why would they do that? This was supposed to be a surprise getaway. That's not something you just forget overnight and you're like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal. Like, I'm sure hundreds of dollars went into that, and now these people just completely ruined it. So honestly, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think the way they tried to ruin your plans is completely inappropriate. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.